lack of career guidance, lack of internship placement, just like we had mentioned earlier. They don't feel recognized and appreciated. Poor remuneration. You can see that that's number 8 on the list. Inadequate use of technology, non-adherence to proper antimicrobial stewardship. Proper practice almost overshadowed by sales output. So there's a lot more. There's fair wage, long working hours, lack of proper remuneration. That's again, terrible regulation and practice, toxic work environment. So I'm going to be speaking on a few of these points. I remember a few days back, or about 2 weeks ago, I had some older colleagues call some young pharmacists and pharmacy students to have like a focus group discussion where we had to speak about the relevance of our training. I must say that we have outdated curriculum currently when it comes to pharmacy practice. What we have, and we are complaining about the fact that we have so many pharmacy schools. We're churning out graduates yearly. In fact, on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, more pharmacists are coming into the workforce. But we must not forget about the fact that it is garbage in, garbage out. Whatever is put into a person is what they express when they come out into the world. That's not to say there's nothing being taught in pharmacy school, but is it relevant to today's practice? That's the question. Pharmacists leaving the country. I remember someone said something about Japa. Yes. I want to thank God for the opportunity for me to leave the country and practice in a clinical pharmacy setting and a community pharmacy setting in another continent. And I must say that a lot of the things pharmacists do in Nigeria are done by pharmacy technicians and dispensers, as well as pharmacy assistants in other countries, in other workspaces. I found it that I was like, the only thing pharmacists were doing were strictly clinically based stuff, nothing to do with the whole dispensing and all of those things. Those things were left to pharmacy technicians and dispensers. Electronic dispensing, there was a lot going on. And we have pharmacists who have interacted with colleagues from other countries, and they know that there's a gap. There's a very big gap between our practice and what is obtainable in other countries. Then for career guidance, we have a lot of young pharmacists who are willing to be mentored by older colleagues. And PSNYPG currently is working towards, we also had a first phase of the mentorship program where we had some young pharmacists sign up for the mentorship programs. We linked them up with some mentors from different fields of pharmacy. And it was a very big success. We intend to upscale it to help pharmacists. Then for the lack of internship placement, we all know that this is one of the greatest challenges young pharmacists experience, and we are currently working with ACPN to see how we can mitigate it. Because, of course, in pharmacy practice, we see community pharmacy practice as a rite of passage. A lot of people end up passing through community pharmacy, even if they do not want to be there. They use it to pass time, they use it to know what the experience is like, and all of that. So we are trying to see that, yes, so many pharmacists see community pharmacy practice as a retirement plan. Whether they are in whatever sector of pharmacy, they see community pharmacy as a retirement plan. Some persons end up not having requisite training when it comes to community pharmacy practice. They just are unfortunate to find themselves in some community pharmacy settings. I remember when I was in Port Harcourt, I worked for a community pharmacist for 5 days. 5 days. What happened? There was a lot going on in that pharmacy that I could not put my head around. And the good thing about it was that I had been exposed to a very wonderful pharmaceutical care setting, that when I got into that practice setting, I knew that everything was wrong. Imagine a young pharmacist who just comes, who is fresh out of school, and that's their first entry point. They go to that pharmacy and they see how they are cutting ampiclox to sell. I had to speak to the owner of the pharmacy. He's a pharmacist. I asked him, I said, what's going on? Because the first day I went in there, I saw the healthcare assistant cutting ampiclox to sell. And I said, no, that's wrong practice. They said, no, our guy has been doing it. I said, you cannot tell me your guy is doing it. I was so confident that our guy was not doing it. I said, no, you can't tell me that. They said, no, that our guy has been doing it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then the next day, our guy came to work, and I found him cutting ampiclox to give to a patient. I was stunned. Like, I could not believe my eyes. If someone told me, maybe I wouldn't have believed it. But somehow I just like, okay, let's see what's going on here. And then we had, okay, someone raised their hands. Is that a mistake or is
no? Just continue. Question
so
be
yes,
asked at the end of the program.
Yes. So I had that encounter, and the other things that were wrong. Sharp practices. Yes, please. Sharp practices. I saw a lot of things going on there, and on the 5th day, I told him I was done. I first of all had a conversation with him, of course, that I saw that this practice. He even at the point I was disrespected. I tried giving a patient medication, and in front of that patient, he switched the medication without speaking to me, nothing. And then when the patient walked away, I had to call him aside. I said, "Sir, what you did here, I don't think I appreciate it that I gave a patient a medication. If you wanted to change that prescription, there are other ways you would have gone about it." And then his excuse was that this particular, not the same combination though. I mean, not the same combination, it was a different combination, but for the same ailment. He said, "Well, this is short dated, and that's why he wanted to send it out." I was like, "Okay, nothing would have stopped you from at least having a conversation with me." And then he also told me about adding cafe guts to treating for treating malaria. I'm like, what's the scientific basis to that? He said they might have headache and it's short dated. I should just add it and sell it and make sure this goes out.
Wow.
And he gave it out to someone. I was standing right there. So imagine me, and you know that a lot of the times when people go to get jobs, not just pharmacists, we go from a point of hunger. We go from a point of hunger actually, when people are desperately in need of jobs and they don't have options. Like I was telling a colleague yesterday, I said, people fight differently when they have nothing to lose. Once upon a time, young pharmacists who didn't have options could stay in such environments without, maybe they would have been complaining, maybe they would have been grunting and all of that. But now, people have options. I mean, this is the era of tech. So many people have built their skills around technology. They are delving out. I mean, you can put in a few bucks into what's this called now, cryptocurrency, and in a few weeks it goes up. You have free money for doing nothing. So why does that person need to sit in a community pharmacy where they are not valued? That's not to say that we want young pharmacists not to practice pharmacy. We are only saying that we have young pharmacists now for those who actually know what they are doing, of course. We have young pharmacists who are skilled, who understand clinical pharmacy, pharmaceutical care. They want to be treated better. Of course, we also have young pharmacists who have come out of school and they barely know their left from their right. Some persons, I know what when people say, sometimes you look at the person and you wonder, oh, this person went through pharmacy school. We've had those encounters. We've had people like those. We've had issues where we have to mediate between employers and employees trying to make things work. So yes, we're now going to go to what young pharmacists actually want. They say they want electronic dispensing. I have a long list here. Yes, better pay and better work environment. Young pharmacists want implementations of 8 working hours and breaks. In other countries, I mean, when people are working, there are a certain number of hours you put in, and you are entitled to a number of minutes or hours of break. Some pharmacists don't have that privilege. They go into a community pharmacy, they are working 12 to 13 hours a day, no official breaks. You have to sit in the consulting room to have a little meal. And while you're eating, a patient walks in, that's the end of your meal for the day or for the hour. Who knows, more patients coming and you're the only pharmacist on shift. Then some persons want optional weekend shifts. Because, I mean, like in the UK, they call weekend and evening shifts, anti-social shifts, actually, anti-social work hours, where people who take up those working hours end up getting paid more. So young pharmacists need to have the option of opting out of that. Some people want social lives. Back in the days, people choose what it was they wanted for a certain time in their lives. But right now, with the economy, people want to work and also have a social life, because they know that no matter how many years you work, you keep working and working and working, and there's almost no breaks. Increase in minimum wages. Young pharmacists want increase in minimum wages, extra duty allowances for weekends and holidays. I mean, there's nothing wrong in paying per hour and then maybe making it a 2 times pay wage for holidays and weekends, or 1.5 wage. We've talked about respect, career orientation. So for PSN YPG currently we're working on personal development skills for young pharmacists from time to time to help improve our skills. Like there was something I promised the leadership of PSN.
Okay, Etel,
and yes,
you need to round up
yes,
in the next 3 minutes. Can you do that?
sure.
Okay, thank you.
I promised the leadership of PSN that we've had a lot of complaints. People say young pharmacists are not doing so well. I've invested in improving the personal growth of young pharmacists to make them marketable. Yes, ethical practices, trainings, multidisciplinary engagement. Yes, back in the days, young pharmacists are in one corner doing their business, nurses are in one corner, medical doctors, people are fighting and all of that. Young pharmacists have come to a place where we want multidisciplinary engagement, where all hands are on deck for the patients, not just people's egos. Integration of tech into practice. I mean, young pharmacists, young people these days are into technology. Like I said, pharmacy profession might get extincted in a few years if we don't get with the trend. A more accessible industrial practice. Yes, I've had to speak with some pharmacists in industrial setting where they say pharmacists are not really employed in their numbers in industrial pharmacy setting. They end up with technicians and biochemists and all of those. So we want more spaces for pharmacists in industry. Then young pharmacists also want health insurance, transport allowance, pension and retirement plans, implementation of consultancy cadre all across the country, not just in some states. Study allowance, very important. I mean, we are talking about improving young pharmacists. How do people get improvement if they don't go back to school? How do they afford these things if they're always working and there's no provision for that? Hazard allowance, I mean, we all know that pharmacists are usually in very close proximity to patients. A lot can go wrong. Maternity and paternity leave, yes, those are the things that young pharmacists want based on civil service rules and all of that. Study leave, yes. Accommodation and housing allowance, yes, that is the last but not the least. Young pharmacists want accommodation and housing allowance. Thank you so much, and I hope that during the course of this engagement, we are going to come to a very fruitful negotiation, and we'll get to a place where everybody will be happy. Thank you very much.
Excellent presentation from Etel Mba. Thank you very much. I really wish that you'd be around where we'd go further into the questions, answers, and discussions on this. But let me just wrap up that you have touched so much on the point. I intentionally did not want to be biased. I didn't want to start by talking about any area of pharmacy, but you came from the dimension of the young pharmacist group and you have spoken out your mind. It's lovely that you even have a research that you've conducted and you've shown us scientifically that these are the issues. You've been able to prioritize it for us, and we appreciate you for that. Yes, indeed, pharmacists are well trained. I agree with you. We are needed in other sectors of the economy, the society, and it's a challenge now in terms of manpower deployment in the pharmacy sector. You've also mentioned that they also migrate to where they are valued. You've talked about the issue of also this concept of the JAPA, and people want to live, to better places. On living to better places, you yourself have said it, that you've now discovered that when you get there, most of the roles you have been trained to do here only puts you as a technician, a pharmacy technician, because tax shifting already has taken place. All right, so that takes us to the issue of curriculum. Though you said the curriculum is outdated, but I know we've made effort to even change. After a very long period of time, we finally accepted the PharmD. It's interesting that in the academia, I'm not still sure everybody has even embraced it till now. But the truth is that I'm happy that it has come into our system, and gradually we are moving away from the BPharm to the PharmD. Maybe that will help us better position ourselves as pharmacists tomorrow. Now, you raised the point I hope we'll touch on later also. Is community pharmacy really more of a retirement plan? I thought that the flagship really of our profession, that's the face that people know us with. Should we continue with this approach of seeing it more as a retirement plan? Yes, pharmacists are being employed from a point of hunger. but those days are gradually getting over. Maybe that's some of the challenges why it's difficult to fill the space for a pharmacist. We should go into a multidisciplinary approach, even in our practice. A lot is being changed now. I'm sure ACPN is bringing in technology and there's a lot of things going on. I've been very happy with what CPAN has been doing of recent. That is very encouraging. So I'm going to hand over now to the second speaker to also go ahead now and make his presentation. And that is no other person than our very own pharmacist, Professor Larry Bali, FPSN. Sir, over to you for your presentation. You have 15 minutes. Please, if you have questions, take note of your questions. After the three discussants are through, we'll go in to take the questions and we can have further comments. Thank you very much.
Slides, okay. Thank you. We go to view, you can make it fine. Pharmacist manpower challenges are the way forward. My name is Larry Bali. I work for BSN. I also work as a consultant for House, which is a special purpose vehicle for Center for Management and Organizational Effectiveness. BSN is Business School, Netherlands. All right, next. What are the key findings? Why do we have some difficulties retaining pharmacists? I think Uber has explained about 23. I was able to pick about 2/3 of that when she was talking. But essentially, workload, she spoke about job satisfaction, working conditions, roles and responsibilities, where she cited example of overseas. What pharmacy technicians are doing is what pharmacists are doing here. Policies, curriculum, training. Are we training them on things that are related to what they will be practicing? So these are some of the things. Next. Fine. So what are the key findings? When the sub-Saharan African were assessed on the major thing, there seems to be a severe shortage of health workers in Africa. To meeting the healthcare needs of the region. Therefore, building a competent, adapted, and flexible pharmaceutical workforce to education and skill development is very critical. The FIP educational resources are available in identifying the needs, and the FIP have been giving support to the sub-Saharan universities. Next. So I'm extracting a number of things from the FIP. So pharmacy degrees are shifting from B Pharm to more patient-oriented Pharm D. In 2015, the Nigerian Academy of Pharmacy brought together all the deans of School of Pharmacy and were able to get them to agree to amend the curriculum. Of course, for each university, the date of change differ, but as of today, all universities have accepted and they have agreed to move into the Pharm D. And I think the last set of B Pharm or BSc Pharm should be out of universities within the next 2 to 3 years, maximum. There's shortfall of academic staff. There's insufficient experiential learning, that is practical learning, that are relevant to real practice is not there. And so to learning opportunities and poor infrastructure, funding, I mean, you are aware of the ASU strike, funding is a major thing. Some of the universities cannot afford the number of equipment that are required to train these pharmacists. So these are working conditions to address academic staff shortages are needed. So the academic staff, I mean, Lumba has just spoken about the fact that the YPG, I belong to the YPG as well. I'm a perpetual member of YPG, of course. So if you talk about the fact that the YPG are not sufficiently motivated, the reality of it also is that even the academic staff, the pharmacy in academia are not sufficiently motivated. The materials are not there for them. So it is important for us to close the gap between education and practice. It's important for us to harmonize pharmacy education across the sub-Saharan region. That becomes easier for people to move from one country to the other. And you are going to see the figures in Ghana that are producing more pharmacists per 10,000 population than we are doing in Nigeria. So move on. Next. I have just 50 minutes. So We need to invest in workforce to increase national workforce density and economic growth. We need to build capacity. We need to increase the pharmacist density. So we need to find ways to actually increase the nomination for pharmacists, either in community pharmacy, in industrial pharmacy, in academia, in hospital, wherever pharmacists are. We need to pay more attention to remuneration because they are poorly remunerated currently. Now, we also need to look at how pharmacists are distributed between the upper and the lower middle income countries. And even within the country, pharmacists appears to be concentrated only in the urban areas. Next. Okay. These are the key findings. If you look at what you see here, this is the pharmacist density per 10,000 population. Ours is about 1.2 to 1.3. If you see my cursor, we are somewhere on this area here. You see my cursor is somewhere here. So here. So it's actually very, very low. Yeah. So compared to the other countries in the world, only few countries are behind us in the sub-Saharan Africa. So we belong to a place where the pharmacy density per 10,000 population is extremely low. Next. I need to move on. So when you look at this and you compare our pharmacist population, you see that of Nigeria has been growing gradually between 2006 and 2016. And you see the figure for Ghana just suddenly moved after 2009. It jumped significantly to 2000, got the embrace into pharmacy. Government invested heavily into pharmacy education. You also see the one for Cameroon jumped up significantly. You saw the one for Rwanda jumped up, the one for Zambia, for Uganda. But Nigeria just kept on moving in snail's speed. Move, next. So we also saw here, these are the predicted pharmacists per 10,000 over a long period. You see that of Nigeria is also, the prediction is just in line with what you saw before. Still behind Rwanda and Ghana in the next, by 2030. So we need to do something significant. Move on. Next, sorry. So let's look at the number of schools of pharmacy. When we look at the number of schools of pharmacy, it appears Nigeria is on the lead. Yes, we have about 25 schools of pharmacy now. This was captured as a 2016 ending. So we have about 25 now. However, Ghana has only 7. But the 7 is equipped to produce large number of people, as well as to have a higher number of pharmacy per density, per 10,000 population density. Next. So the number of schools of pharmacy per 10,000 population shows that if you look at the number of schools of pharmacy per 1 million population, you notice that Namibia has the highest. Nigeria is similar to that of Uganda and Malawi, which has very low figure, 0.1 per 1 million population. In terms of, so move on. So, because what we really require for 1 million is it cannot be less than about 200 schools of pharmacy to be equivalent to 1 million. So we have about 0.1. So what are the key findings? There are 3 niche-based education domains. There's a need, first and foremost, to have continued professional development. According for those who have qualified before, there are still diploma holders who are practicing. That is before BSc Pharm or BPharm was introduced. So what they understood about pharmacy is essentially dispensing and compounding. There's a need to develop people who are fit to practice. When I say fit, to continue professional education. If you want to update their knowledge, on 30th July last year, we were able to train a number of pharmacists, about 161, on the concept of vaccination. And we know we have challenges. Even within the pharmaceutical audience, the pharmacists in senior leadership are opposed to pharmacists being trained to learn how to do vaccination. But because of stubbornness on the side of those of us who put it together, we went ahead to do the training. And by December, we secured the Nigerian Primary Healthcare Development Agency to agree that pharmacists can now do COVID-19 vaccination. Effort is ongoing today. to see that pharmacists are allowed to do routine vaccination so that we can do routine vaccination of children or anytime there's a need for vaccination. So there's a need for continued education to make us fit to practice. There's a need for quality assurance and need-based workforce development. So we require professional relevance, we require educational capacity, and we require system efficiency. And the school is part of the system. The fact that a number of institutions are not interested in taking internet means that the system inefficiency. Because in a place where there's inadequacy of pharmacy, we're supposed to be interested. Next. Let me quickly move on. Next. So we need to train resources to support quality education, accreditation that must be provided. There will be new teaching methodology beyond the current one. The current one is means that people must be physically in class. This is time to combine free digital with physical class. It should be possible for students to stay in their rooms and just connect like the way we do now and get some lectures, particularly when it comes to soft skills. The lectures that require practical and the ones they should physically be. And so we should be able to train more people, get across more people, and breed more people, and produce more pharmacists. We need to have continuous curriculum review. I would like to tell Lisa that it's not true to say that curriculum is moribund. Actually, regularly there's an update. Maybe each university's response to that update, because I'm aware of the fact that the Pharmacists Council have been updating curriculum since 2016. So collaborative leadership and partner with stakeholders should be developed. Next. I need to move fast. So young pharmacists group by champions of continuous education initiative, they should continue to drive it. Pharmacy organization must continue to play a critical role in pharmacy education by providing feedback to let us know what is working and what is not working. The students and the YPDs should continue to, they are asking for increased experiential learning opportunities, mentorship, support to engage, and we know that the Nigerian Academy of Pharmacy started the mentorship program actively in 2013. We hope, in 2016, we hope that we should be in a position to continue to give support in this area. Move on. Next. So the opportunities of COVID has provided us a great opportunity to be able to enhance and enrich pharmacy education. Education has been significantly disrupted by COVID-19. So we need to adapt to remote learning, like I mentioned, both digital and physical. We call it digital. We need to find a way to get more senior people to share knowledge. For example, people in the industry will be willing to share knowledge on how to become industrial pharmacists. Move on. Next. So we need to address inequities, create partnership with various stakeholders, including the Ministry of Health, establish a constitution of pharmacy schools, and expand collaboration with FIP, UNESCO, and Unitway. Move on. So what is the biggest challenge pharmacists are facing? The identity, lack of cohesiveness, low self-esteem, changes in the way we practice adoption of technology and patient-centered multidisciplinary work is not there. For example, doctors are not willing to work with us because some of our pharmacists are also not up to date in knowledge. Some of them are not demonstrating competence. Next, I served on the teaching hospital for 8 years, and at times I feel very ashamed with the quality of what some pharmacists demonstrate. The major challenges facing community pharmacy in 2019 includes competition, consolidation of pharmacy chain, growth of specialty pharmacy market, struggling to make the right technology choices, roadblocks to achieving provider status, securing collaborative practice agreement, and at times overregulation of pharmacy or community pharmacies. And regulatory authorities appear to just focus on community pharmacies and to overregulate them, whereby the veterinary labs are not as regulated, and so on and so forth. Move on. Next. So under that circumstance, the motivation is not there also for them. So what are the key? No, sorry, you are too fast. So next. First, we have the ability to therefore provide basic care. We need to change their attitude. We need to be able to improve pharmaceutical care skills. We need to become sort of stimulated, concern, and overcome them. We need to therefore collaborate and choose role models as mentors. Next. One of the things that Peter mentioned is the fact that the number of pharmacists are leaving pharmacy. It is good for pharmacy that the number of pharmacists are leaving pharmacy, because when they are back in pharmacy, be able to add value whatever they've learned, it's just like when people go all the way to, when they go outside the country, they become diaspora and they're able to come back again. So it is important, I will call it back time on, so they will be able to therefore get ways within which we can get the very best for ourselves. So as the industry way products are evolved, there's a need for pharmacists to know that we have responsibility managing addiction, in managing prescription period addiction, aging population, changing demographics, and more responsibility, and pharmacy is becoming more attractive for people to practice. Some of us who left pharmacy before and went to other things outside pharmacy, we are beginning to come back to pharmacy as we see a bigger opportunity to practice pharmacy in a much more fulfilling way. Next. So for public health, it's a great joy to know that we are incorporating pharmacists on team-based care as we increase patient awareness of the importance of medication adherence, as we encourage and support behavioral change and self-management of many chronic diseases. A number of hospitals are liaising with community pharmacists to them to do post-hospitalization management of chronic patients. That is happening in the US, and I believe it's going to start to happen in Nigeria as well. There's a need for us to make use of disruptive technology, 3D printing, precision medicine, patient design, to enrich the practice of pharmacy so that young people can see more things to do in pharmacy practice beyond dispensing and the dispensing, which are compounded, which we need to start to delegate to pharmacy technicians. Next, and spend more time on counseling. There are opportunities for us in public health on immunization program, like I mentioned, emergency preparedness and response, contraceptives, family planning services, prevention and control of infectious disease like we did on COVID, chronic disease and injuries, and move on. And all this can be done. I would like to say a very big thank you to the organizers of this program. I know I've had to rush me to be able to stay within 15 minutes given to me. A teacher of my nature cannot talk for 15 minutes, but I have to follow instruction to the letter. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was a serious elucidation of knowledge that you have just dispensed to us. We appreciate you so much, sir. From what Prof has said so far, you can see a lot of his slides actually agrees also with what Ethel has said. In some, also there was some divergent views. He also agrees that yes, the issue of the workload needs to be looked into, issues around policies, the curriculum. He mentioned also that the curriculum actually effort has been made to improve on the quality of the curriculum, so it is not just moribund. There's shortfall of academic staff. I think I should talk a little more about this. It's becoming a serious challenge actually for some departments of pharmacy to get pharmacists to fill in positions. So the challenge that is likely to happen is that we will have a lot of non-pharmacists come in. I don't know, will it be good for the profession eventually? The argument is neither here nor there. But if they do not get pharmacists to fill in positions, it can be as good as saying we are inviting non-pharmacists to take over the training of the profession. Poor infrastructure and funding, well, we can relate that to the current ASU strike that is going on. Now, do we really have an idea of our manpower needs for pharmacists as a nation? Have we been very deliberate in carrying out, research on this and then bringing out publications or policies that will guide us that this is what we want to do? Some years back, I remember I stumbled on a document from Australia. I stumbled on another one from that of the United Kingdom. These are policy documents, and they had their, the plan laid out clearly what they wanted to do over a period of years and how they will grow their manpower in terms of pharmacists filling specific roles that they have outlined. Now, are we aware that our competition is global? The pharmacists we bring out today, that's just the reality. They are just not for our local consumption. The competition is global. So if the working environment is not conducive for them here, it might be difficult for us to expect that they should continue to remain here. So that means we have to look inwards to see how really do we, carry out efforts to improve the working condition He also talked about continued professional development and then system efficiency. He talked also on curriculum development, and then that we must not throw away the lessons that we learned in COVID-19. The COVID-19 has come and gone, but it helped us to adapt technology into what we do. So for some of the courses that we train, we just have to help leverage on technology to carry out some of these trainings. While for those that requires hands-on practical experiences, yes, that can be done within the four walls of the schools. The issue of low self-esteem also came up. I think we should address that. The pharmacy school, does it really add to this issue of low self-esteem? I've really heard it on many occasions. And when you compare the physicians together with the pharmacists, it appears as if some were trained to always keep their heads up high. While another profession, I do not want to agree that it's pharmacists, somehow tend to be timid or try to be laid back. Well, the discussion is still on. I think I'll stop here and I'll give room for the third discussant to have the floor in person of Pharmacist Lawal. Folashade Lawal, FPSN. Ma, over to you. You have 15 minutes for your discussion. Thank you, Ma.
Good afternoon, dear all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's been a very interesting afternoon, and I'm happy that Prof and FL have done great justice. They've laid a very good foundation for me. I'll just try to round it up as soon as possible. A lot has been said, and I'm happy that Prof came in before me. I deliberately requested for this because I know it's very academic and he has done all the academic work for me. So all I want to do is cite a few examples based on my experience. You will agree with me that the problem on ground is big, massive. I could spend days, weeks on this and wouldn't have exhausted it. So briefly, we'll look at pharmacist manpower challenges in Nigeria as it affects us in community pharmacy practice, where I practice, and then we look at optimizing employment and staff experiences, cultivating a motivating and challenging environment, then this JAPA craze, what is it all about? And probably talk a little bit on way forward. So the issue is that it is always greener on the other side of the fence. It's a normal human feeling. People always imagine that it's better out there. And sometimes it's when you get there that you know that it's not necessarily better. There are some things here that are better than what we face there, and vice versa. So manpower challenges, hiring best fits. We in community pharmacy practice, we have a lot of challenges there. I will talk from my experience. Sometimes it's just difficult to get the best fit for what we want to do. And thank God that Ethel has said, in fact, I learned a lot from her. Like Prof said, I'm also a young pharmacist and I remain young. So we are all in the same shoes. But sometimes you wonder if many of them that come around, you wonder if they are ready for your vision. By God's grace, I've been in this for 30-something years, 33 years, and I have had more pleasant experiences than unpleasant when it comes to pharmacist engagement. Sometimes I just engage with the mind to train. And like I tell them at the point of employment, I'm not necessarily assessing how much you know, but I want to know how much you are willing to learn. Because if you have gone through pharmacy school, to me, it means that you have been schooled, you have been trained. There's something in your head as far as pharmacy is concerned. Now, learning is a continuum. If I know that you are willing to learn, I'll bring you on board so that we all learn together because we continue to learn. That is the way I go. So I look for people that are willing for us to learn together. at the point of employment, my questions are geared towards, I don't expect you to have the answer in your head, but what will you do if you are faced with this situation? So when they come in, we want to engage them to give their best. We now assess them to see where their passions are. Sometimes we go out of our way to create what we didn't have before for this person to express him or herself. Those are some of the challenges. I'm talking about the challenges actually, because sometimes they come in and I mean the fresh pharmacists, and you begin to wonder where precisely do you want to fit them into, and that is the truth. Some of them are just not ready particularly for the practice. Like Ethel said, some of them just see community pharmacy as a passage. So when you fall into the hands of those that see it as a passage, it becomes an issue, because they might not just identify with your vision. And sometimes there's the challenge of keeping them to grow with the organization. There's some of them that by the time you are done training and it's time for them to grow with you, they imagine that they've known everything and they want to leave at that point. I know you cannot keep people indefinitely, but let's even have this growth together. It becomes difficult. So let's look at optimizing employment and staff experience. In community pharmacy practice, in my practice, we try to motivate our staff, especially the pharmacists. Some are self-motivating, but some need that extra push. And so we involve them in, like we have compounding units, we have public health units. We create different units so that you can identify into something, put yourself into something and let it work. We don't want pharmacists to just sit down there as traditional dispensers, no. Of course, we also know that in our country, as for now, for me, many of the pharmacist technicians that I have come across, we still have issues. Look, in Nigeria, prescriptions don't come. So it's difficult to say that you will make dispensing of prescription as exclusive right of the pharmacy technician. It's difficult because the prescriptions don't come. The pharmacist needs to take decision as far as that is concerned. And that decision, professional judgment, the pharmacy technician may not be able to do. So pharmacists—
Not that, they don't have it.
Yes, so I still do my traditional dispensing because I cannot leave it to the technician to do. And so many other things. The prescriptions that are coming, you don't even know what the patient is using. It's important. We need to get all that information. We need to know the patients that we are relating with. In Nigeria, we don't have streamlined healthcare. The patient is bringing prescription from Dr. A, Dr. B, Dr. C, Dr. D, and bringing them in different forms to different places. The pharmacy technician cannot do that. So we have a lot of issues here, and we need to look at what to work in our environment. We cannot say that we will be UK today. No, we are not UK today. We are not US. They have their own challenges too, but they have a system that works. We don't have one. So we need to motivate our own pharmacists to make the most of the situation that we have found ourselves in, which is not any of us fault. Prof said we are over-regulated. We're also under-regulated at the same time. So we are grappling with so many issues, and we need that creativity. We need to sit down. We need to decide that we want to make it work. So it's either we are motivating the staff or they are self-motivating. And there's a lot, we have to keep on training and training. And sometimes I find challenges here. I set up WhatsApp groups for us to have. When I see a case, I put it there for us to discuss. Sometimes you have to harass. Sometimes I have to say, if you don't respond by so time, I'll remove you before you get contribution. And this is something that we are learning. When you get wisdom, it is yours. Nobody can take it from you. Whatever knowledge you acquire, it's yours. then we need to look at this attitude of your problem, whatever problem you have, is also my problem. I'm an employer, but I don't leave my staff to their problems to solve unless it doesn't get to me. And I know that that is the way to go with everybody that you employ, not only the pharmacists. When we work with you, for you, so that things can be better for all of us. Now let's look at this Japa craze. What is responsible? It's global. It's everybody's challenge. My son in medical school, before he finished, he was already looking to go out of Nigeria. He said it's part of what they tell them is to, once you're finished, go out. And that is because we have a lot of enabling environment in our own situation. The political factors are there. The security issue has heightened things. These days, even those of us that are older, young pharmacists, we are already thinking that we have issues with security. So you can imagine that the younger ones, they have the opportunity to go. Then they will want to go away, run away from you can't even predict what can happen to you. And we don't have a system on ground. And then heightened by the economic situation, the rate at which dollar, everything has gone haywire, and what is coming in is not commensurate with that. Now, if we have a system whereby service is recognized in Nigeria, right now, people are still product focused. And that is why trading in community pharmacy is difficult to overcome, because people want to pay for the product, not the service. The moment you introduce a charge for service, you see withdrawal, because they have options, because they have other places. The patent medicine dealers are there. They don't mind. They will go there and buy and come to tap your knowledge for it. So we need to sit down and look at how can we make it work. Probably that will take me to the way forward. Where are we? We need to look at where we are. We are in a jungle. Healthcare practice for now is in a jungle form. I know things are getting better, especially with the COVID-19 that made us to start looking at what we can do online and all of that. Things are getting better, but we need to take a very good look at where we are, where do we want to get to? If we all leave the country, who will solve our country's problem? Because wherever we go to, we are still Nigerians, and our people to deserve healthcare. So sometimes we just have to make a sacrifice. Where do we want to get to? Where do we want this nation to get to? And how do we want to get there? Sacrifices have to be made, and that is the truth. We must be self-regulating where regulation is weak. And then where there's over-regulation, we have to mount advocacies. We have to look for how to get our own groups, PSN, ACPN, to come up and kick against the over-regulation. So together we can get there, but we have to know that there is a common problem that affects young pharmacists, old pharmacists, pharmacists to be in Nigeria. All of us are affected. If we continue to shift the blame, we will not get there. But if we decide that there are problems and we can overcome them, then we'll come together and overcome them. I don't know how much time I have, but when I started out as a community pharmacist, it was not intentional. My interest was in academia, but I didn't.
Yes, you have 3 more minutes, ma'am.
Yeah,
3 more minutes.
I didn't like the practice, and I thought that I could make a difference. It wasn't fun, and I had to decide that this is what I wanted to do. Not business. I had no business acumen. I am not even sure I still have, but I decided that what we taught in school has to be. And what they're being taught in school now is better than what we were taught in school. So we have enough knowledge to do what we want to do. At the base, of course, we'll build on it. But to say that what is coming out of pharmacy school is inefficient, no, it's not. I don't agree with that. We have well-structured program to set us up to where we want to get to. But to get there, we have to make a lot of sacrifices. We have to learn. We have to keep learning and updating our knowledge. We have to decide I want to work together within ourselves and with other healthcare professionals and give them their due without us being trampled upon. So together we can get there. Let's go there. Thank you very much for giving me this brief opportunity to talk.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ma. Mrs. Folashade Lawal. Thank you. You have just added the icing on the cake. You have ignited our hope one more time that yes, even though the healthcare practice presently is in a jungle form, if we have an idea of where we want to get to, then we can get there. The grass is not necessarily greener on the other side, okay? And young pharmacists entering into the practice, that they should be willing to learn and they should be given platform to express themselves. You know, look at the community pharmacy practice. When you create different units, for example, in a community pharmacy practice, you are likely to employ more pharmacists. I like the example you gave. You said you have a public health, section. You had one for compounding, and you can go on and on and on and create other units that will employ more pharmacists. And that means that more pharmacists will be able to come in and maybe practice based on their own specialization within a community pharmacy premise, rather than the idea of just having a superintendent pharmacist or a registered pharmacist. He's expected to do everything. Okay, maybe that will reduce some of the workload that Ethel was talking about earlier. Now, are there opportunities for us to practice as pharmacists in Nigeria within the hospital? I say yes. Some months back, I was privy to some information and I was shocked to my marrow that in some states in Nigeria, at the Ministry of Health, they actually have 2 pharmacists. In a particular state, they have just 1 pharmacist in the Ministry of Health. So I was asking, excuse me, what exactly is going on? Is PSN aware of this? Is PCN aware of this? There are many, I believe, thousands of hospitals, private hospitals in Nigeria that do not have a pharmacist. And they carry out full operations that requires a pharmacist. Okay, and we're talking about, manpower. Where exactly are we? Are we in the right places? Is our contribution being felt or not? All right. I will conclude by saying, yes, you have thrown a question to us. Regulation versus overregulation. I've heard it in both ways. We are overregulated. No, we are underregulated. My take home for this is just the way you summarize it up. If we see that there is a challenge with overregulation, we should speak out. If we also see that there's a challenge with underregulation, we should speak out. It's our profession. We shouldn't run away from it and leave it for anybody to handle for us. It's going to be well with pharmacy at the end of the day. Now, over to us now for contributions. I'm sure you're itching to say something. How do we make it now? I think we should go with the raise of hands. So if you want to actually ask a question, you can direct your question to any of the presenters. If it's a comment you want to make, you can go ahead and make your comment. But please go straight to the point. Everybody's going to have 1 minute to make your contribution. So if it's a question, please just go straight to your question. If it's a contribution, you have 1 minute to make your contribution. After that, I will have to stop you. So I want as many persons as possible to be able to contribute to the discussion. In no particular order, as I see your hands raised, I'll just go ahead and ask you to make your contribution. Thank you once again. Okay, fine. There's a hand that is raised now. I think I want to start with just a minute.
Yes, Lola.
Yes, Lola. I can see Lola. Yes, ma'am. Please help me from your end too. Francis, please help me. Thank you. Okay, after the break. Yes, thank you, Francis. Everybody. After the break, then we'll take it up and down. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to play it out, but we'll continue then. Yes.
It's going on now.
Guys, I don't dey go. My life not too well. Sharpshooter, don't call goal again, Abi. Oh boy, no be that one. She do test, then say na malaria. True, malaria see that is stubborn now. It be like say I never yarn you about my short paddy. Which your best friend you get? Where we no sabi. Name na Zoxin. I need to know more about this your best friend. Ah, no wahala. Zoxin, the better anti-malaria medicine. We get better combination of artemether plus lumefantrine. Now confirm anti-malaria medicine. I never see any friend way better pass my Zoxin. Oh boy, you know all these things. Now you know one tell us things. No wahala. Now when I know it, make I run go buy them for my wife. Oh, got it. The guy. The Bone Chemical Industry Limited, where they make it on a bit. For picking them, they make it in anti-malaria medicine. Today for pharmacy, where they are.
Okay, so you're welcome back. Just to summarize, our Manpower challenges are enormous, but we are up to the task. We can handle it, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. So the discussion will go in that direction as we move forward, beginning with Pharmacist Lola Adebayo. Pharmacist Lola Adebayo, please just unmute yourself and go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. And thank you to all presenters. They've really covered a lot. On the issue of manpower, I just want to share my own opinion too. For pharmacy profession, I think it's time we learn from other professions too on how they are handling, how they seem to have a relative stability in the manpower, people working. If we look at pharmacy generally, we seem to be the one worst hit by pharmacists moving in and out, and we having to replace what a pharmacist should do with other professions. And if we don't do something fast, I'm afraid we may lose the profession to other people, and it will be difficult to take back. If you go into hospitals, we see doctors working at different stages. Why? Because I think they are not being forced. Their emphasis is on service. In community pharmacy, emphasis is on license. So sometimes you have people who are willing to work, but by the time you now streamline it to bring in somebody, a registered pharmacist, and we are now left with most of these registered pharmacists are people that are just coming out. So most times you have streamlined, you have already restricted the number of people that can come in. That is one. And then there is no aspect that does not have its challenges. I think people coming into community needs to know there is no work that is a bed of roses. Even if you get into the hospital, the challenges are there. But they seem to mount more of the pressure on community practice. You want everything from you want him to give you accommodation, you want them to give you transport allowance, you want them to give you this, you want them to give you that. How have you sat down to consider how exactly is this pharmacy faring? Are these demands really achievable? Is it comfortable for the person? And then most times there's a lot of friction between the employer and the employee, because most times we see that they come back and at the point of negotiation or whatever we call it, when they are coming in, we are forced, it's not as if the employer does not know this is not convenient for me, but because I'm under pressure, I need to choose between taking what he is telling me and not taking it.
Round up.
Okay. My point mainly, Sha, is that let's soften on this enforcement. Let everybody go and employ what he can afford. And then even if it's 2 hours, 4 hours, professional service we can get. Let them come in with that professional service, not emphasizing go get a license to register the place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The services we provide should be well remunerated, and then should be within the comfort of what we can afford as a community pharmacy. And then if there are people that want to practice, they should be given the opportunity to be able to contribute. I think that's the summary of what Lola was saying. Okay, the next thing we want to take now is Pharmacist Gafar Olawaju. Pharmacist Madam Gafar Olawaju, over to you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay,
please go ahead.
Now. Very good. Yeah, thank you very much. It's been very pleasant listening to the speakers, and I want to tell you that this is not the first time we have been talking about this, and I also want to contribute that what we are having, manpower shortage, this and that, they are symptoms of a warped health care system that we have in the country, and it is not peculiar to pharmacy profession. because I've interacted, with other professions, the health system, medical doctors, laboratories, and the rest. They are facing the same challenges. So it has to do with our health system. Now, what do we do with our health system, to address these symptoms, that we are seeing? And I've talked about it, and I've been telling me that until we'll perfect our health insurance system in this country, we always be having these symptoms. Because the health insurance system, if it is perfected, that is when the professionals will be engaged. And when professionals are engaged, it will create opportunity for the professionals, the younger ones. They will see hope. They will see the reason to practice that profession. So all over. I mean, if you take time to Google the health insurance systems all over the world, you will see that developed countries, they have almost 100. I mean, between 80 to 100% coverage of health insurance. And that is where they are, the professionals they are making headway. But in Nigeria, we have less than 3%. In Nigeria, of 200 million, we have less than 3%. So, and I will want us to focus on how we can, improve our health insurance system. Collaborating with other professionals, healthcare professionals. Once we get the health insurance system right, I believe that we'll be able to go in a long way to address most of these problems. So we need to focus, because we are
being challenged by
pharmacies are
internet.
not involved. So everybody must, all health professionals now, we have to reorientate ourselves and demand from government, that we must have a workable health insurance system. Until we do that, we continue to see these symptoms and just be discussing it endlessly. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Pharmacist Gafar Olariwaju, actually, he has told us now that as a profession, we should be deliberate in our strategy to be more visible in the health insurance system in Nigeria, as that will help address some of the challenges we are talking about, as has been seen in other countries, developed countries, that we're using as examples of where practice is being well remunerated. I think I agree with him. Maybe we should take the discussion hopefully further down the line someday on how we can really make our impact much more felt in the health insurance scheme. Okay, next is Christopher Ugu. Christopher Ugu, please, over to you.
May I ask that they lower hands when they have spoken?
Yes, I do that for them once they are through. Francis Akin Kumi Ezekiel, please get ready. Okay, I can't find Christopher. Sir, please go ahead, sir. Francis Akin Kumi Ezekiel, please go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon. I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, just two things quickly. Number one, when we talk of manpower challenges in pharmacy, now there are two things: the quantity and the quality of the manpower. Talking of the quantity, I think the PCN has number of pharmacy that should come out from each school. If you want to increase the number, we can work with the PCN to increase the number that is approved for each school. That's about the quantity. Secondly, on the issue of quality, we talk of self-esteem. Self-esteem comes from competence, and competence can only bring confidence. What we train pharmacists, the way we train our pharmacists, we train them for standard, that the way things will operate. But when they get out, they find something else. In the community, in the hospital, they find that the system is different from the way they are trained. And because of that, there's a problems. They have problem with doctors, we have problem with other health cares, So many of the things that we call as standard, the way we are operating, is different from the way they are trained. Unfortunately, we cannot say because we have problem, we are going to train people along with the problem. We have to train them with the standard. That is why many of them, when they leave this country and they go elsewhere, where things work, they can always integrate. But here, you are trained how to relate with doctors, you are trained how to relate with patients, how to relate with nurses. But when you get out, you find that the doctors, you can't relate with them in the way you are trained. You cannot relate with the patients in the way you are trained, and then problem comes. So, like pharmacist Gafar says, it's the problem of the health system. And as we try in our own corner, we need to work with other healthcare teams to make sure that our system works. Otherwise, the problem will continue. That is just what I want to say for now. Thank you for the opportunity. Sorry, I'm on the road.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, thank you. I think we want to go for a short break, just 1 minute break. Pharmacist Ajibade, please, could you just take us on this? That will continue. Okay, so welcome back. The last speaker actually made, a pointer to something. Talk about quantity versus quality. That those are the two aspects we need to look at. Let me just comment on the aspect of the quantity. You have referred that if you want to increase the quantity, well, you talk with PCN, maybe look at the number of pharmacies that they are graduating from each school. I think the issue is not even the number, so much about the number of graduates we're having. We're saying that these people are coming out, they're graduating. Some schools even graduate by 100 at one sitting. Now, graduates that are coming out, and you have multiple graduates in various schools of pharmacy almost on a yearly basis. But we are still having these manpower challenges because we've talked a whole about where people are migrating to and other options that are available and how the condition of service is not okay. So we were basically saying, what can we do to ensure that these people that were trained to offer these services will be available to deliver the service to the profession. Thank you very much, sir, Pharmacist Ezekiel, for your contribution. The next person I have the hand here, I will take Lola Adebayo. After Lola Adebayo, I'm going to take Deborah David. So Lola Adebayo, please, over to you.
Lola Adebayo has spoken.
The hand needs to come down. The hand needs to come down then. Thank you. All right, fine. Deborah David. Deborah David, please.
I thought you said you were removing them.
Deborah David. Okay, is Deborah ready? If Deborah is not ready, then I will.
Please.
Okay, fine. Who is ready? Christopher. Okay, Christopher is back. I called you earlier. Christopher, please go ahead. Go ahead. Christopher Ugu, please go ahead. Okay, so I'll move to the next person. Ernest Okafo.
Okay. Good evening, all.
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, it was indeed it's been a very good discourse. Just portraying on some of the points that were raised. The problem with pharmacy, retail, community pharmacy, because there's no free for service, you discover that the success of a pharmacy depends on the rate at which the medicines leave the shelf. If the person doesn't leave the shelf, you are impoverished. So it behoves on the pharmacy owner and the pharmacist to generate the sales. And that makes that the personnel must make efforts to, in some pharmacies, they are even giving targets so as to make effort, because unless you gather, you cannot scatter. So it discovered that is what they make, that they basically need to share our salaries and the conveniences. Then the conditions of service of a particular pharmacy or the company you are working, when you are entering the company, look at the structure. You don't go to somebody who doesn't have any structure to start looking for pension, leave allowance, and so on. Look at the balance sheet of that company before you start making demands. Many a time, young ones go to pharmacies and start equating themselves with the kind of salary you earn in organized places. Then I mean, in line with what Pharmacist Gafar has said, our healthcare system needs to be overhauled, especially pharmacy, because you discover that we have very lofty ideas about what we intend to get out of the system when we are in pharmacy school. And by the time we come out, you discover that we're only struggling to make ends meet. And especially when our expectation in terms of lifestyle far more exceeds our home take. That's one of the problems. So I agree with Pharmacist Lawal that you need to work out, determine by yourself what you actually want. You make it out. And when you are working in a place, don't look at your certificate. Look at what you are going to put into that particular organization to make a better yield for you to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pharmacist Ernest. Let me take it from where you concluded that there's a need for us to align together our personal goals with that of the organizational goals. And that means we was very, very determined to at least, maybe as an organization, have the organizational goals. That keeps you in check in terms of the direction of focus. And whoever is coming as an employee, you ask for their own goals and see how you can align the two together. And we have also talked about this issue of fee for service. It's interesting that many professions that I know, even those ones that do not go through a regular educational system, actually request for a fee for service. Let me give you an instance. Some weeks back, I had an issue with my washing machine. My washing machine was bad. I needed to fix it. So somebody recommended I should go to a particular technician and go and fix it. When I got there, the person first of all asked me that I will pay a professional fee of 2,500 before he will attend to my washing machine. It was not negotiable. It was not optional. I had to pay it before he attended to the washing machine. Now, when he came home and he fixed the washing machine for me, he only connected 2 cables, wires that were having issues after he opened the panel. And by the time he finished, he said my bill is 4,000 naira. He did not spend up to 30 minutes in my house. He said my bill is 4,000 naira. And that is apart from the 2,500 that I paid earlier. Now, if you've been to any private hospital of recent, I'm sure you know that the amount you pay for registration and the amount you pay to see a consultant every time you go there is not negotiable. So I keep asking, okay, why is my own profession different? That whenever you mention the issue of fee for service, people just don't want to hear it. I don't know. That discussion is still for another day, hopefully. But let me give room for other people to still get to make some comments. Pharmacist Adewale Adebejule. Pharmacist Adewale, please. Thank you. Please unmute yourself and go ahead. Pharmacist Adewale, we can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself. Okay, I will have to take the next person because we can't hear you. Pharmacist.
Hello?
Okay, fine. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead now. I can hear you.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead. Pharmacist Abiodun Ajibade.
Okay, good afternoon one more time, everybody. And I want to appreciate all our callers, all our discussants for the discussion of today. Well, my own opinion in this discussion is that as a profession, we need to take drastic steps. And what I mean drastic step, it means we need to have a focus. It is good that our younger colleagues are having better opportunity outside the profession. But as a profession, as the professional in the profession, there is need for us to also create minimum work environments that will allow our younger colleagues to be able to operate within. because the more we leave this to demand and supply relationship, we continuously have our younger hands leaving the profession. No matter what we want to do in terms of educational improvement, we want to wait for government that is not coming, and we allow the profession to be deficient of manpower. At the end of the day, we are the one that will keep suffering, because everywhere where pharmacists need to be known, there will be no pharmacists there. And there's a way it affects all of us. In a situation where you are in a profession and the only person that can be seen to do your work is just anybody, automatically it's just to give us a negative identity. So my personal opinion is that this call for an action, there is a need for us in pharmacy profession to come up with with a standard rule that will allow us to say, once you graduate as a pharmacist, 90% of the time you want to practice that pharmacy. Because we need people to be in this profession, for this profession to be able to demonstrate itself to the outside world. So these are my contribution at this level. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Pharmacist Ajibade. I still saw your hands up. Pharmacist Akinrinori, your hand was up.
My hand was up.
Yes, sir. Please, Mark, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, I just wonder whether I should talk as part of the board of admin.
No, please go ahead. You can go ahead and talk, Mark.
Yes, but I feel the need for someone who has practiced in the diaspora for over 3 decades, about over 2 decades. I've listened, and every point is relevant. But what I want to just say here, first, I will respond to the YPG that talked about weekend work, that in other places it is not mandatory. I disagree with that. Pharmacy is a profession, the community pharmacy, that requires you to work at least every other weekend, in at least twice a month in the globally. So it's not an optional thing. But what I want to caution, because as somebody that came back from the diaspora, what I have noticed is this Nigerian factor of dictatorship as an employer. I believe many pharmacists can stay in employment if they are treated with humane. It's not only about the salary, but they are made to feel worthwhile having, made to feel good. Even when they make mistakes, the way we correct in mistakes goes a long way in encouraging pharmacists to stay with our employment. You know, the way we treat them, our attitude as employers goes a long way. And I want to just put that on the table, that we need to also work. Yes, there are a lot of things that are not still okay in our country, in the healthcare system. But how do we harvest what we have? Because many people will stay employed to us if we treat them right. I have seen that, and employers need to look in themselves. It's all about money, but how do we treat our staff? How do we treat our younger colleagues, even our contemporaries, even our senior colleagues that work with us? Are we being dictators? Are we being bossy? Are we being arrogant? So we need to check that, and let us make some corrections. And I believe we can still be able to retain pharmacists, you know, if we are more humane to the ones we have. That is my contribution.
Well, thank you very much, Ma. I like this, your contribution. And I should also mention from what you said that we should start, I think it's time for us to start actually reviewing some of these condition of service and service agreements, so that these humane aspects and keeping it balanced also from the perspective of a pharmacist, right? Not just anybody in human relations management or personnel management, but if you have experts here, and we do have them, there is actually the faculty of, what do they call it now in the college? We actually have a faculty of social and administrative pharmacy, and we have consultants that have graduated from there. You know, some of these consultants can help look at some of these contracts that we are signing, or that you intend your employee to sign, just to make sure that it is balanced and fair on both sides. So that it don't be like you just continue to regurgitate what was handed over to you, what you need for the last 10 years. It may not really be, workable in the present condition that you are now. So you can reach out to some of us that are consultants. We will help you fine tune it, and maybe you come up with something better. I can see Ethel is back. Ethel, please, I'll give you the chance to and talk. Please, Ethel now. I want to take Ethel now. Please, let me take Ethel now. Ethel and Mba, please, you have the floor now.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for everyone's contribution. They've been really wonderful, and I've learned a lot. So yes, I'm going to be reacting to a few comments and then rounding up. Yes. So about the accommodation allowance and transportation allowance. Yes, we all know that for some states, the ACPN in some states have come to an agreement with pharmacists generally, not just young pharmacists, concerning their pay, wages, provision of accommodation and transportation allowance, which is reflected in their salaries and all of that. So like I said, a lot of the times people apply for jobs as well as open vacancies based on desperation. And when people are desperate, they agree to a lot of things that they cannot do. And we all know that there's a level of anyhowness, quote and unquote. I'm sorry to use that word, but well, for a lack of better words, there's a level of anyhowness that's acceptable in Nigeria that is not acceptable in other climes. And with that, people end up not meeting their ends of the bargain, and then there's friction, forward and backward, people ending up interfering and all that. Yes, and then someone said something about paying for 2 hours of pharmacy of professional services if that is what you can afford. No, that's wrong. Provided there is a pharmacy, for every waking moment of that pharmacy, there's supposed to be a pharmacist on ground. That is the law. And one more thing I need to say is this. Recruitment processes is also a problem. If I own a community pharmacy, there should be a standard of recruitment. I shouldn't just employ just anybody and hope for the best. No, we should also reflect, we should also do some self-reflection, ask ourselves, what are the kind of people, who are the kind of people we employ in our establishments? Are they up to our, do they reflect the vision we have for our organization or not? Then we also have community pharmacies, both young pharmacists who have gone into community pharmacy practice. I have had a lot of them.
You need to round up now. You need to round up now.
I'll be rounding up shortly. Some persons are not ready to employ. Say I'm a community pharmacist and I don't have enough revenue. Why should I employ someone else that I cannot afford to pay? And then we also talk about fee for service. If you are not indispensable, you cannot request for a fee. You don't have a right to be asking for that. Then the longer we stay without a community pharmacy in the pharmacy, the less income we have, because like was said earlier, if you don't sell the products, you don't make money. And without clinical knowledge, some of these items cannot leave the shelf. Same as our prescription-only medicines. It's only pharmacists who can tell a patient how to use those medications. So when you stay without a pharmacist, you stay without clients, and there's no money coming in. You can't afford to employ a new pharmacist later. You have to work hours to get back your clients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ethel. Thank you very much. Sorry, we can't take any other comments again. I want to appreciate everybody for your contributions so far. The discussion, I believe, should continue on our WhatsApp platform. We have our WhatsApp platform. Please feel free to reach out to any of us, from Sajibade, myself, or any of the other admin. If you are not on any of our WhatsApp platform, I think we should continue the discussion. It's a discussion that is much more than 2 hours. This discussion should continue. Hopefully, we'll get somewhere that will give us a direction on our manpower challenges as a profession. Thank you. From Sajibade, please over to you, sir, for the wrap-up.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Drowaye. Let me call for Mrs. Eluri Bale to just give us maybe his closing words. And afterwards, I will call on Mrs. Falashede Lawal to come up with our own closing words. And as we wrap up this, Mrs. Eluri Bale, over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pharmacist Sajibade and Pharmacist Duro Jaye. Drowaye, I apologize. I want to thank everybody for showing up. What is clear to us is we also look at the law of demand and supply, and that a lot of things are managed by demand and supply. It's clear that there is need for more pharmacists. It's also clear that pharmacists are overtrained for the nature of the work that they are doing. That's why people from other industries come to pharmacy to pick them. I recollect consulting for my academic for about 2 years, and we took over 30 pharmacies within the period of 18 months. So what that means is the industry, the industrial pharmacy was depleted. I mean, pharmacies in the industrial pharmacy sector were depleted because they were found to be better salesmen or marketers than any other group of professionals. It's important, therefore, that we keep on talking, we keep on discussing with various stakeholders in ensuring that we're able to get better quality service from pharmacists who are in the pharmacy profession. We also get better remuneration for them because, like Estelle mentioned, the more we improve in our sales in community pharmacy, the more the likelihood that we can pay them better salary as well. Between the egg and the chicken, which comes first, there will be debate over and over. But what is most important to me is that let pharmacists first of all render qualitative service, and then when the business starts to grow, they can also demand for an appropriate remuneration. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for those beautiful words. I'd like to call on Pharmacist Folashade Lawal for your rounding up words as we wind down this event this evening. Pharmacist Folashade Lawal, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It's been a very exciting afternoon to me. And I'm so happy that we as pharmacists, we are charting the way forward for our profession. We don't have another profession. It is pharmacy. And I can boldly say that I have enjoyed being a community pharmacist for my 33 years of community pharmacy practice. If it's possible to relive my life, I will still be a community pharmacist, and I'll be happy to practice in this environment, despite its challenges, because those challenges are surmountable. And we all have to decide that we want to surmount it. We can surmount most of the challenges if we make up our minds to surmount them. So by God's grace, pharmacy is it. And like we have said, some people will still go, no matter what you do. Some people might find out that they are in the wrong profession, and it's better if they find themselves where they belong to. But pharmacy is it. And as pharmacists, we have a lot to offer the people. We have a lot to offer the world. I just pray that we open our eyes to all that, the opportunities around us, and walk around them. We can walk around them. Please let us continue this discussion, and we will get far with pharmacy practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. And I want to use this opportunity to appreciate all our discussants this afternoon. Our professor, ever ready, always available, giving the best each opportunity that comes his way to talk to us in pharmacy. Pharmacist Nere Bale, we want to appreciate you so much for your depth on the topic of discussion today. You have actually taken us through a very good, good drive, and we see that there's a requirement on every quarters. And I want to also mention at this time that for Pharmacist Folashade Lawal, you came up practical. You're able to present to us the practical situation with us. And I believe strongly this is just the best opportunity we have to synthesize a workable roadmap that will give us as a profession what we desire of this profession. And also appreciate Pharmacist Ethel Imba, because you have actually given us the reality behind this topic. When we're talking about pharmacist manpower, we're not looking at people that are retired to employ. We're looking at the young people that are just coming from school. And for those of us who are still very young, I know we are not the type that we are going to be looking for a newer job now, but then we are still available in the service of pharmacy. So for the younger pharmacists, you have actually spoken their mind. You have been able to present their situation to everybody to see. You have been able to tell us as a profession what you want for us to be able to get the best out of you. And I want to say that this discussion is not going to end here, because we're going to escalate it into a communique, which we actually come up with point by point lines of the things that we are desiring in pharmacy. And at this juncture, I want to also appreciate all our participants in this call this afternoon. Well, the attendance today is good, but it could have been more. But then we feel strongly there are so many contesting events all around. But then, nevertheless, we have all spoken into this topic. We have been able to bring out our own points and ideas, which has been offered for us to synthesize a roadmap. And I think individually, we are also taking responsibility for the things that we should also be doing on our own. Because for me to maintain and retain a pharmacist, I must begin to work on my HR requirements. It means everybody also has been spoken to see how can we develop our environment. And I want to say thank you to all our members of the board of administrators who have been here since this meeting began. Pharmacist Benga Olubowale, Pharmacist Fuluke Akiniroye, Pharmacist Drew Waye Michael, Pharmacist Onedo Titi Layo, Pharmacist Richard Ladapo, though is unavoidably absent, Pharmacist Isa Muhammad, also unavoidably absent, and also myself. We want to appreciate every one of us for this time. And I know very well that in a very short while, when we come your way again with another stimulating topic, we'll be out here to come and contribute our own opinion and ideas with the hope to keep on talking about our problems. I want to thank you all. I want to appreciate you. And I want to say you have a wonderful rest of the day and as you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much and have a pleasant evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
God bless
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I tried. I couldn't come in. Thank you.
Sorry, Christopher.
A new dream, a new horizon, a new zeal for a bright vision. And there's a gift that mustn't perish, and there's a choice to live and flourish. And this dream will enrich a nation from generation to generation. Photogene, the living tonic. No doubt this one is authentic. Good health and vitality for rich life and every family. Photogene, the living dream. Oh yes. Won't you join the believers team? Oh yes.
One more at last. The better women begin the work for don't land. Photogene, the gift what Chineke God to take bless us. Photogene for mental and physical energy. And your brain and your body go there well. Photogene is for tonic and capsule. And Upon Chemical Industries Limited, they make a Oponabi, they make a
Photogene, a tonic for every generation.
Succeed, anti-malaria drops, yeah. Succeed, it finish malaria.
Guys, I don't dey go. My wife not too well.
Sharpshooter, don't score goal again, Abi.
Oh boy, no be that one. She do test, then say na malaria.
True, malaria see the disturb now. It be like say I never yarn you about my shortest paddy.
Which your best friend you get? Where we not sabi.
Name na Zoxin.
I need to know more about this your best friend.
No wahala. Zoxin, na better anti-malaria medicine. We get a better combination of artemether plus lumefantrine. Na confirm anti-malaria medicine. I never see any friend way better pass my Zoxin.
Oh boy, you know all these things. Now you know no one tell us since. No wahala. Now when I know make I run go buy am for my wife. Oh,
Correct guy. The Bond Chemical Industries Limited, where they make it Bonabe. For our picking them, they make Zoxin anti-malaria medicine. E dey for pharmacy where they are area.